I mean, there's a chance this was the NBA championship. I actually don't feel that way. I feel that way less after watching the game.
But we've had game fours like that before. That game four was the game, right? It's like 2000 LA, Indiana that decided the championship that game.
If you think that, you think OKC has now such an upper hand with home court advantage that they win game 5 and then all they got to do is split. I don't come out of this game feeling like, it doesn't even feel like Oklahoma City still knows like what lineups to play and when. Like, did the double big thing even work? Hartenstein was -7. Wallace is kind of just like down. 19 minutes, made one shot. Joe didn't play the second half. Wiggins 8 minutes after that huge.
No, they have 6.5 guys, Zach.
And
they're down to 6.5.
And are they going to now lean on the lineup we thought they might start tonight, which was Caruso for Wallace, staying small?
Yeah.
That might be their best lineup. It was -7 in the playoffs before this game. So I feel like they're still a little unsteady. Chet looks a little rickety on offense outside of a couple of putbacks and stuff. But so I'm not ready to go there, but there was a chance that this was like the NBA title was literally in the balance tonight.
That's how I felt leaving. I felt like Indiana blew it. And there's two versions of blowing a game where you have like some of the comebacks Indiana had where like the Knicks in game 1, where you're like, not only do you just blow this game, I'm not sure we can emotionally come back from that. This one was like Indiana. It was kind of amazing. They were up 10 with, late in the third quarter with how well OKC was playing defensively and how physical the game was. And Foster, we didn't mention him yet.
Here we go.
It was just an abomination. It was a typical Scott Foster, all over the map, just involved, like weird stoppages, missed calls, like calling touch fouls, then not calling somebody getting clubbed in the head. They had no control of this entire game. There was over 70 free throws. Both coaches were mad. Both benches were mad.
Everyone was mad.
There was no rhyme or reason. All of a sudden, they just started calling fouls on OKC in the fourth quarter that they'd been doing the whole game. They're like, yeah, we're going to start calling those now. Nobody could keep track of anything. So the game had no flow. But the biggest thing for me is if Indy can't run and Indy's not, playing with pace in the half court offense, I just think it's really hard for them to score.
Well, that's both these teams, and neither one can get any momentum running against the other. Toppin got a run out, dunk in a transition 3 at one point. But you look, it's like, how do you win a game? I don't even know what number is more alarming, only making 3 threes or only attempting 17. Like, Oklahoma City could not get any threes in this series.
Nobody wanted to shoot them either.
Their 3-point rate would be last by a mile now in the regular season. This will be 3 of their 4 or 5 lowest 3-point rate games will now have been in this series for the whole 100 whatever games they've played.
Wow.
They can't get threes. The Pacers are just like, they're just filling gaps and flying out, and they've got them second guessing. So how do you win a game? When you make 3 threes, you take 17, and you have 10 assists. 10 assists.
They had 4 assists in the second half too. They had 6 at halftime, 4 in the second half.
And they didn't win the turnover battle. The turnover battle is more or less even. The answer is 34 free throws, shoot better from 2, and have an absolutely incredible defense that strangled the Pacers late in the game. But the Caruso wildcard game. And the Caruso wildcard game.
Caruso 7 for 9. It felt like all of them were big shots. I feel like they, I thought Dort was the best defensive player I saw this year, and I thought he was massive in this game. Caruso was the most important trade of the year, and he was massive in this game. And they at least know now, because a game like this, and I know it's one thing to watch on TV, it's another thing to be in the building for it, because there's just a different level of pressure and intensity. The fans were so loud, and just for 2 hours, they're mad at the refs. They're going nuts for the team. That was the kind of like 10 out of 10 pressure atmosphere I think that team needed. And really what they found out was we have Caruso and Dort, we have our 2 best guys, and we have Chet. And this is we're going to ride or die with these 5 guys. And that's how it felt down the stretch. But what's crazy is they couldn't make any threes, and it didn't matter. And that's just like in the NBA in 2025, to make 3 threes, you should never be able to win a must-win game on the road. It should be impossible. They also hit their free throws, which we should have mentioned. They're 34 for 38.
They're a great free throw shooting team.
That's 90%.
I think we should talk about Shai.
Yeah.
And Shai in the second half, because it didn't feel like it was going to be a great Shai game for some of it.
He had 2 points in the first quarter, basically.
He wasn't bringing the ball up at all, which is a red flag. Like and then they change his substitution pattern. So he comes out much earlier in the first and third quarters to like shorten his stints.
Yeah.
And on a lot of these possessions, part of the reason why like it's J-Dub going one-on-one or whatever is if Shai starts off the ball, Nembhard is just denying him, like top locking him in the corner, just not letting him get the ball. And if he does that once, Shai on a lot of these plays will just kind of check himself out of the play. Just like, all right, I guess someone else is going to do something. And it just felt like, boy, maybe they really have worn him down. Maybe this Pacers machine where it's like pitch and catch and run and screen and press you all over the place, maybe on only one day off between games, playing him 4 times, whatever, maybe they've done to him what they've done to everybody they faced so far. And it wasn't pretty. None of it was easy. Like you go look back at his baskets, his fouls, almost none of them were easy. There were like very few jailbreaks like the Pacers were giving up in the first couple games where he splits the pick and roll and it's like a jailbreak to the rim. And he summoned what MVPs are supposed to summon. He summoned like enough energy, enough resourcefulness, enough tough jumpers to get them over the hump in this game. It wasn't like not a lot of highlights. It doesn't necessarily a performance that like makes you feel super confident about the next game, but it was everything they needed to survive that game. He gave them. I don't know what grade you would give it. I don't know what struck you about it.
It's funny that was your takeaway because I felt completely differently. I felt like they got over some sort of invisible hump.
Well, I just think I'm just talking Shai specifically. I didn't necessarily feel like that kind of fourth quarter was going to come. Even I guess early in the second quarter, he made a bunch of tough buckets to keep them afloat. It
felt like he had 2 points. Then it felt like he made 4 tough shots in a row
in the second
started
quarter.
To take control of the game.
But he summoned whatever he needed to summon. He did it.
So it's 101-97, 3:34 left.
Okay.
Neesmith hits second free throw coming out of the timeout.
Yeah.
Shai gets fouled, hits 2 free throws. Halliburton makes the driving layup. So now it's 103-99, 3:20 left. And OKC's offense kind of broke down a little bit, but that led to that Shai 3. It's the only one he made in the game. They get a stop because Caruso blocks them hard, and then Shai makes that step back, and all of a sudden they were leading. And I think if we were watching, those NBA Finals mini movies that the NBA makes, and everything's in slow motion, and they cut to the bench, like this was the NBA Finals mini movie moment where Shai's 3, which was a massive, massive shot because it went from 4 to all of a sudden they had the lead. And then that other one, and it was like, everyone in my section was like, what just happened? We were up 4. And I didn't feel like Indiana was going to win after that. And that was one of the only times I felt that way the whole playoffs for them. Just felt like a fucking stomach punch.
And look, OKC has been in this exact position before against Denver, down 2-1.
Yeah.
On the road, season maybe on the line.
Who was that? Lou Dort hit a couple shots?
I think that was game
Jay
5
Williams?
was like the Dort game. That game 4 against Denver, I think, was the one. It was a very low scoring game where like Wallace and Wiggins made a bunch of threes against the zone in the third quarter when it felt like they were really teetering in that game. And they just another test that they survive, and now they go home. And I mean,
well, if you're Indiana, you're kicking yourself though.
You are 3 threes and you give up 3 threes and you lose the game.
And you stopped running. And I'm not going to say they played scared. I thought they played tentative down the stretch. It was one of the few times we've seen them all year where they were they just weren't attacking like they normally do. I actually thought they made a mistake. And it's funny because he was terrible in the last minute of the game, Mathurin. He missed the 3 out of 4 free throws. He had 2 dumb fouls. But I actually thought they needed him down the stretch because nobody could create anything. And he was the one guy on their team who can actually create a basket. And it's just, that's a lot. I like Nembhard, but that's a lot to ask for him to try to create shots. I also thought we should have mentioned this too. SGA's defense was really good in this game. Like he blocked a Halliburton 3. He tipped a couple passes. I just thought he was really active. And on top of what Dort and Caruso was doing, it's in the running for best defense I've ever seen in person. When you're wondering how somebody can get the ball over midcourt, that's like shit you worry about in 8th grade, not in like an NBA game.
Shai is the best guard in the league at the I switched onto a big man. He's posting me up, and I'm going to jump over you and tap away the entry pass without fouling you. He's the best guy in the league at that.
arms.
Yeah, he's the best guard in the league at that.